How would you rate Scotland in 2024? What mark out of 10 would you give them for the year that was? Other things I'm going to touch on in this video, because I will give them a score out of 10 at the end. I'm going to touch on how many Scottish players can we expect to be in the British and Irish Lions squad? How optimistic should Scotland fans be for 2025 and the Six Nations that's just around the corner? What opportunities were missed and what successes were there from the year we've just seen? Where are Scotland at? I'm going to touch on all of those things and more, and I want to know what your thoughts are and your mark out of 10 that you would give Scotland in the comments down below. Give the video a thumbs up, hit subscribe on the channel. Doing this in alphabetical order, going through the top 10 countries. Been doing it last week and this week. It finishes tomorrow with South Africa. Tomorrow as I record this, I appreciate it's quite late in the day putting this video up. It's been a busy one. But then I will touch on the teams outside of the top 10, like, sorry, Wales fans, like Wales, for example. I'll touch on those and Georgia and other countries as well. So keep an eye on the channel. I'm going to keep the videos coming. Premiership and URC around the corner, building up to the Six Nations through the new year. I'll keep putting videos up right over Christmas. And if you appreciate the fact that I'm committed to bringing rugby content regularly, whether it's scandals at the RFU or looking back at the year of Scotland in this case, then yeah, give me your support. I'd really appreciate it. And thank you for all the support in 2024. So traditionally, I've always felt very fondly towards Scotland. I know not many Scotland fans feel particularly fondly towards England, but nonetheless, I always kind of had a bit of a soft spot for Scotland because they were always the plucky underdog. They'd occasionally pull off an amazing result. They generally tended to play really bravely and above themselves, whilst usually losing. Coming close, but losing bravely. That was the Scotland identity growing up for me. But what's really changed, and the current crop have got Scotland to a very different place now. But what I would say is that whole identity is sort of baked into a degree, and it needs to work its way through the system and out. And I think this current crop of Scotland players are getting rid of that. And we've seen that most recently with Glasgow winning the URC, going and winning silverware, doing it in the hardest way possible, away in Munster, away at the Bulls in Pretoria, and flying the flag for Scottish rugby. That on its own, and that's not what I'm judging here, I'm judging the Scottish national team, but Glasgow winning the URC is probably, no, not probably, is the most significant thing that's happened in Scottish rugby in quite some time. And I think it's going to be a springboard to more success. Let's see how Glasgow get on in the Champions Cup this year. I think they've got a shot. And I think it's building that confidence and that swagger that you need if you're going to back up and win big matches back-to-back, which is what you have to do to win a Six Nations. One of my highlights of 2024 was going to Murrayfield for the Six Nations game against England. Despite another defeat for England, which I was half expecting, it was just an absolutely brilliant day, and I loved it that much. I'm going up to Murrayfield for the 1882 Cup. The second match, I know the first one is tomorrow night as I record this, but I'm going to the second one on the 28th of December, so I'll be bringing you some action from the 1882 Cup at Murrayfield as well on the channel, so keep an eye out for that. So as for the results this year, well, the Six Nations, what might have been for Scotland, they won 2 and lost 3 of the Six Nations. Very disappointing return for such a good team. The points difference for them during the Six Nations, 0. Just goes to show how narrowly they lost those matches, those 3 matches. 17-13 against Ireland away. 2 points defeat by Italy away. It was a famous win for Italy, massively disappointing for Scotland. The defeat at home against France. I mean, Scotland felt very, very hard done by in that game. They had the opportunities to win the game themselves and didn't take the chances, and then left it down to a referee call. It went against them and they lost the game. But so close. I mean, I'm looking at those results in the Six Nations thinking, will Scotland get a better chance? And then I looked at the fixtures for this year and thought, yeah, 2025. Scotland, if they can harness that confidence they've got from Glasgow winning the URC, and if they can put 5 big performances out on the pitch, now I'm not saying they'll win a Grand Slam. Grand Slams are incredibly hard to get, but they start home against Italy, then they're home against Ireland, then away against England, which obviously is a guaranteed win for Scotland, then home against Wales, and they finish away in France. There is a chance that they are playing for the Six Nations in Paris. that could happen. Of course, they could go and lose 3 more games, so we'll see. It was a proper tour for Scotland. They left a few of their big guns at home and went away to the USA and Canada and to Chile and Uruguay. Really cool tour. They would have made some memories, bonded, got tighter. Some young guys were introduced and they won all those games comfortably. And then in the November tests, they were spirited against South Africa but didn't have the quality, and then beat Portugal, and a really good performance to finish against Australia, where they were convincing winners in that one. That left them with a record of played 12, won 8, a 67% win record. But again, you look back at those Six Nations results, the narrow defeats, and you can't help think that 2024 was a year of what might have been for Scotland, because they are a serious team. They stay at 6th in the world rankings. They have got a stacked squad. Everywhere you look, they've got quality. High quality. And I mentioned it at the start of the video. How many Scotland players do you expect to tour with the British and Irish Lions? I expect quite a lot. I mean, go from their team. Schoeman and Fagerson in the front row. I mean, they've both got a shot at being starting or certainly match day props for the British and Irish Lions in a test team. I think one of Gilchrist or Cummings could end up touring. They're kind of unsung heroes in this Scotland team, the amount of work those two get through. And then that back row, that Glasgow trio of Matt Fagerson, who's had a brilliant year, Rory Darge and Jack Dempsey as well. All 3 of those have got a shot at touring with the British and Irish Lions. That's their whole pack. And obviously with George Horn going off and playing in Japan, Ewan Ashman has stepped up. And then in their back line, well, Ben White's been brilliant. He could tour with the Lions. Finn Russell, obviously. Tuipulotu and Hugh Jones. Huipulotu, they should both tour. May well start in a test team. Duhan van der Merwe, you could see him touring. Before he got injured, I thought Kyle Steyn was the best of the Scottish wingers. And I thought he could tour. Hopefully he can get back fit and play in the Six Nations to give himself a shot. And Darcy Graham, that little battle for the top try scorer with Duhan's pretty cool. Blair Kinghorn's going to tour. So the entire Scotland 15 have got a shot at touring with the British and Irish Lions. And there are some players I haven't even mentioned who feel like they've got a chance as well. They are a quality squad. If there were work-ons for Scotland, areas to address, backup props, but then I would expand that out and say just backup in general. They have actually got some depth in certain positions, but there's big drop-offs in some positions. Stafford McDowell's a really good player in the midfield. He's not Hugh Jones or Sione Tuipulotu. Tom Jordan's been a big positive this year, and he's added some depth. Backup props in particular, massive step from Xander Fagerson at tight head prop. Elliot Miller-Mills has actually looked really good for Northampton in the Champions Cup, but Xander Fagerson is an absolute beast of a player. And the drop-off, Scotland need to manage the minutes of their players in URC and Champions Cup, and they need to just hope for no injury issues. Obviously, Jack Dempsey being out is a good example. That's one area where they have got a few players that can come in. But yeah, I'd be feeling pretty positive if I were in Scotland. And I've said they need to work on for Scotland is being the favourite. Having that confidence. Having that swagger you get from winning a URC with all those Glasgow players in the squad. Maybe going on and doing well in Europe. Arriving at a Six Nations thinking, not we can win, but we should win. And I think they're slowly getting there, which is bearing in mind the resources, the player pool, the number of teams. It's pretty remarkable what Scotland are able to do. And I'm giving a 6 out of 10. I'd be interested to know what you think about that. 6 out of 10 is my score. And that seems like quite a negative score. But I think that reflects the fact that those Six Nations games were, well, 3 defeats in the Six Nations. Could easily have been a 9 out of 10 for Scotland because they could have won and they could have got a Grand Slam. So the fact I'm giving them 6 out of 10 is I think that's a positive. That reflects how good the squad is and what they are capable of doing if they can pull it all together. One of the challenges is going to be, can they have that 23-man squad that can live with a team like South Africa? Because we saw at Murrayfield, I mean, not many teams can live with South Africa for 80 minutes. They changed up their squad, brought some heat off the bench and Scotland didn't have it to match. Can they raise up the 23-man squad and the wider squad, as well as getting their best 15 out on the park? And if they can, they've got a shot at the Six Nations. They've got a shot. I'm not saying they'll win it, but they've got a shot. It's going to be a great competition, and it'll be around the corner before you know it. That's my thoughts on Scotland. 6 out of 10, is that harsh? Or is that reflecting where they're at and what they should be achieving versus what they actually managed to achieve? Let me know in the comments down below. Give the video a thumbs up. Hit subscribe on the channel. South Africa then to finish the week, and then I'll be looking at all of the URC and Premiership rugby coming up. So make sure you keep checking in.